If you've ever boarded a plane sweating with a toddler or two, this one's for you. Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm a mom of two and under, and today we're going to be talking about air travel with toddlers and might reduce your chaos a little bit for your next holiday trip. The very first thing I'll mention is kind of a well-known thing, but people always seem to ask about it in all the mom groups I'm in. If people actually check your birth certificate for your baby or toddler when you are flying. And I would just say better safe than sorry. I don't think we have ever needed it. Maybe one time. From my research, if you have a lap child, it is more likely that you will be checked with the birth certificate. You might as well have it and not have to worry about getting kicked off your plane or not being allowed into security with your child. So bring all of those birth certificates or passports, that works too. The next thing I'm going to mention, I mentioned in my road tripping video, and that would be downloading media for you and your kid. Just making sure that all of that is all worked out and all solved, because the likelihood of there being issues is higher, and you can't really solve it on the plane because there's no Wi-Fi. So, I always have trouble with Wi-Fi in airports and on the plane. I would definitely make sure that any media you're wanting to use, whether it's games or movies or videos or TV shows, download it before you even get to the airport, but make sure you check it right before you go into the airport, because it's likely that you will have to deal with whatever's going on without the media that you're looking for if you don't. Next thing we're going to mention is another prep thing, and that would be a lollipop or something for them to be sucking on or chewing during takeoff and landing. If you have sensitive ears like children, it's really hard during takeoff and landing. Your ears pop a lot and they don't know what's going on. The likelihood of crying and tantrums is much higher. So just cut it out by making sure that you have something for their mouths to be doing, and it should help. The next prep thing was also mentioned in my road tripping video, and that would be Snackle Boxes. We had Snackle Boxes for both of our kids during our last road trip, and that was like the biggest lifesaver. Granted, my 1-year-old, I had the Snackle box in my lap and I was handing her snacks, but still having all of the options and not having to dig into all the different things was very helpful for me. And then my 2-year-old just had her Snackle box in her lap and she was just picking off of it as she saw fit. So Snackle boxes, great idea. And you can have a variety of different kinds. You can do more healthy, you can do like cracker type things, you can do whatever works for you and whatever your kids like. I know our last Snackle box had fruit snacks and Ritz crackers and a couple different kinds of fruit, like grapes cut in half and blueberries, I think. And then we had a bunch of other kinds of crackers like goldfish and cereal. All right, this next one was also mentioned in my road tripping video, and that is Water Wow. I will say I have some Water Wow for my older daughter, and she managed to, in a single day, make the boards start to crack. So I am kind of on the lookout for something a little bit better than Water Wow. But I also will say that it is nice to not have to worry about melting crayons or markers running out or anything like that. I think this kind of thing would be the nice thing that's not a screen time aspect. Kind of going along with that, make sure you have something new for your kids each direction. It will help you make sure that things are nice and novel and entertaining for your kids. Cheers. So this something new can be a new toy, it can be a new snack, it can be a new aspect of the toy, so a new color wow. It's just something that's new so that they can feel like you're thinking of them. When we flew our older daughter at about 9 months, we went to one of the gift shops and got her a toy from that. It was one of those suction cup balls that lights up. Both my girls kind of fight over that ball now, even, 2 years later. So do with that what you will. You could just go to the gift shop and get them something, but it is kind of expensive. So if you prepare it ahead of time, all the better for you. This is something that I think is so important, and that's bringing multiple changes of clothes for everyone, not just little babies, not just the toddlers. You need multiple changes of clothes, easy access in your carry-on for everyone, especially shirts for the adults in the situation. Make sure that you just have enough. And then also, if your baggage gets lost, it's not a big deal because you have all of your necessities in your carry-on or in your diaper bag. That works too. This is going to be a quick reminder to people. The liquid limit is different for baby and toddler related things than it is for you. For you, you can't have anything over like 3.5 ounces or something like that, and it has to be in a clear plastic bag and you have to take it out and whatever. If you have stuff for your toddler, that includes pouches, like squeeze pouches and things like that for applesauce and purees, or if you have milk or formula or breast milk, so regular milk or breast milk, all of those things, you just let them know you have stuff for your toddler. They like it in clear containers, but they might just have you open it or ask if it's okay to open it so that they can check what's going on with it. I probably wouldn't bring a whole gallon of milk, but unless that's what you produce breast milk wise, then they have to take it. They have to. Make sure that your ice packs are completely frozen though, because it kind of messes things up if they're not frozen all the way. So just a forewarning there. So many people say if you have a kid under 2, put them as a lap baby every single time. I have to disagree. It is definitely more cost effective to do that, but I think you need to take into account your child and your capacity. So for our older kid, she flew, I think, twice before she was 2, and they were both within like 3, 4, 5 months of each other, something like that. For our flight out to where we were going, there was extra space, like the flight wasn't full, and so they let us take our car seat on, and we ended up having the ability to have her in a seat. The second time, like flying back, everything was totally full, and it was kind of a nightmare. I don't know if it was the timing of the flight or what, but it was a nightmare having our 9-month-old as a lap baby. She is very wiggly, she moves around a lot. It's just not feasible for us, but we also didn't do something else later on this list that might have helped. So, and when we fly next, we will have her in a car seat, obviously, and in her own seat, but because I didn't want to split us up on our section, then I ended up going ahead and doing our 1-year-old as a lap baby, and we'll see what happens there. Hopefully some of these other tips that I have since researched, hopefully it helps her to be able to not be as wiggly, because she also doesn't really like being in people's laps. So yeah, I might come back and strike this whole thing and just say, no, always do a car seat, just in case. I do think they have lap child belts that like seat belt to your seat belt. With that heaviness all put to the side, I would love it if you have found anything in this video that has been helpful so far. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. It really helps in the algorithm, and I greatly appreciate the help. So let's keep on going. This is still kind of in the prepare section, but it's connected with things that make a little bit more sense at the airport. So I'll start mentioning some things with that. Make sure you have separate packing lists. I mentioned this in my road trip video, but it goes even more for flights, I feel like, because making sure that you have everything you need when things are just ridiculously expensive in an airport, and if you're doing international stuff, it's potentially more expensive internationally. Like, you just have to take more things into consideration than when you're road tripping, because I mean, flights take lots of hours off your trip. You still have all of those hours like deplaning and like trying to get through the airport and things like that. So just make sure that you have everything you need. And for us, when we're flying, I even have a separate list or I'll mark on our list what goes in carry-ons. Like I mentioned before, there are some things that you're going to need in your carry-on in case things go awry. And while no one wants things to go awry, you definitely want to be prepared in case something does. That way you don't have to be as worried or as concerned. So with talking about what goes in a carry-on, make sure you're thinking about what will go where and who will carry what bag and what child, because it is so easy to overpack. I know I was just saying make sure you're prepared, but don't overpack. You can do laundry in the location that you're at, especially if you're holiday traveling for family or whatever. Try to pack as light as you can. People sharing suitcases, great. Still have separate lists for them, but people packing in the same suitcase sounds like a plan. I know when I was growing up, my dad would pack in like his carry-on and that was it. And for the longest time, my husband was the same way. Whenever we would travel and stuff, he would mostly pack in his carry-on and like barely put anything in the checked bag. It was all my stuff. I was like, what are we doing here? When my mom and my sisters and I, for the most part, would all share one very, very large suitcase, like the biggest you can have for like all of our clothes and things like that if we were flying. There was one time where it got lost and I had nothing but the clothes on my back, and I think I had one extra pair of clothes in my carry-on. It was unintentional, but I was grateful for it because our baggage got lost. I think that time it was just me and my mom in that suitcase, and being 13 and not having the clothes you want to wear when you so meticulously planned all of your outfits, it was not fun. I mean, it worked out. We got our suitcases found. It was fine. If you do happen to overpack and not be able to move everything, even just to the check counter, most airports do have a cart that you can rent for a short time for between $7 and $12. We have used that before. We did when my daughter was 9 months, and we did again when she was just a little bit older and we had to fly again. Who knows? We may do it again this time. I don't think so though, because there are some things that we're doing to make sure that we don't have to pack quite as much. Those carts are very helpful, especially if you're trying to figure out how to lug car seats and like 3 gigantic suitcases, and then you have carry-ons for everybody and the diaper bag. You can definitely utilize those carts and it will be much better. Also, if you're flying solo, you can ask for help from people in the airport, like staff in the airport. I've heard they are very helpful. I've never flown by myself with my girls, and I don't plan to either because I don't like traveling without my husband. But if I had to, that would be what I would do. In a previous video that I'll link up here, I talk about tips for handling toddlers, and in it I mention allowing them to help you. And in this case, the best way for them to help you is by carrying their own bag, whether that's a bag that has their snacks or their water or juice or whatever. Letting them have like a little backpack or a little carry-on to roll around, that is very helpful for them to feel useful. And the backpack can double as like a leash. That's what we did when our daughter was 9 months, and the next time she flew, she has a little monkey backpack. So the tail turns into like a leash thing. She hated the leash part of it, but she loved the backpack. So I don't know. It could be a give and take there, because airports are crazy and you don't want to lose your kids. So there's another hidden tip. Strollers and carriers. For me, I think it is so much easier to, if I know I'm going to be carrying my young children for a long period of time, I tend to prefer some kind of carrier, whether that's a wrap or a more structured carrier. Now that my kids are upper teens and even into the 30s, that would be a lot for a wrap. I don't think they recommend having a wrap for that long, and it would sag so fast. So I would definitely use a more structured carrier. So that's a great way to carry younger kids specifically. And then obviously you can put them in a stroller too, if that is better for you. If you're like strapped with all the other bags, go for it, and then just gate check your stroller. That definitely works too. One of my toddlers is potty trained, and she has been doing so well at being dry, but travel is so uncertain, and sometimes you can't find a bathroom fast enough and things like that. So even if your kid is potty trained, even if your toddler specifically is potty trained, I would recommend a diaper, whether that's over their underwear or just straight up by itself. That's up to you. But for us, I mean, both have worked when we went on our road trip. She stayed dry through the whole road trip, even when she fell asleep. But she had both, where there was one day where she just had the diaper on, and there was another day where she had her diaper on over her underwear. And, or I should say pull up. It's just potty training young kids is so hard sometimes, but it's so rewarding to be able to say, hey, you did it, and pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I did it too. All right, the next thing I'm going to mention is something we haven't done in the past, but something I have seen a lot more recently, and that would be to make sure that your kid gets, or kids get, all of their wiggles out. If they're too young to walk, I guess I mentioned that this was mostly for toddlers, but if you have younger kids too, make sure that you have an extra blanket for baby so they can roll around and be active before getting on the plane and having to sit for like an hour at least before they turn off the what is that called? The seatbelt light. And then if they're toddlers, like most of this video has been mentioning, just let them run a little bit. Some bigger airports have like a little playground thing. Take them to that. You don't have to be by your gate the whole time. I promise it might feel better, but with kids, it's not always the most ideal option. So yeah, making sure that they're doing everything, spinning and running and jumping and doing all of the things. All the things. They need to do it all before they get on the plane. Speaking of which, I have heard so many times that you board during family boarding. That might not always be the best option. I mean, if you're flying solo, probably, yeah, go ahead and do that so you can get everything set up before the plane is completely flooded with people. But if you're not flying solo, send one person to set everything up during family boarding, and then don't put your kids on the plane until the absolute last possible second, because they're going to be sitting there for a while until the flight is ready to take off, until you're up to your cruising altitude. When that seatbelt light is on, they need to be buckled. Sometimes kids don't want to be buckled. So that is kind of up to your discretion. If you want to choose to board in family boarding, I'm not judging. We did that both the other times we've flown with our one kid, but I think this time I might send my husband to set everything up, and then I'll come with the kids later. Also, the flight attendants are always so nice, and they're like, hey, how can we help you like get everything down the aisle? They're so helpful. Don't be afraid to accept their help, because they're there to help and they are quite experienced with this. So whether it's flying in general or watching people with kids who are flying, they've seen it all. Just allow them to help and you'll feel less stressed. They'll feel helpful. The last thing I'll mention is loosening the lids to bottles and cups when you're doing takeoff or landing, because the likelihood of it exploding because of the altitude change is huge. So just kind of loosen it. You don't have to unscrew it entirely, but loosen it, and then it will release the pressure or allow the pressure to not build up. And you'll thank yourself later when your kid does not have water or milk exploded on them and you have to change their clothes. So just do it. What am I saying? It's too late already. That's all I've got for you today. If you are looking for a community of parents, specifically moms most of the time, but parents who support each other and like to build each other up while also being able to have discussions about things that are parenting related, please subscribe and then watch this video next. It's the video that I've been mentioning a lot about road tripping with toddlers and how to avoid the chaos with that, since there's chaos everywhere with a toddler. Wow, I am so crazy today.